Hello and welcome to the Walk in Love podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Brooke.
And today we are going to talk about the life-changing habit or practice of travel.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us a part of your week.
The Walk in Love podcast is a weekly conversation between Brooke and I about emotions, rhythms, marriage, parenting, and faith. It's a place where we laugh and sometimes cry as we try to find language to live a better life.
You were so excited I read that. You forgot your part.
I was just like, yeah, Brooke said thank you. That's so cool. So yeah, we're here.
Still eating my grapes.
Still eating your grapes. Thank you for, I literally don't know what to do right now.
So you can say it again.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for making this part of your week. I was really encouraged by, again, this wasn't last week's episode. So this is episode 146, the life-changing, I would say more practice of
But I think
travel.
The practice, right? A habit is something that you do over and over that's a priority.
Yeah, that's true. I was super encouraged by, we shared the clip of Jesus is the lifter of eyes, which is 144. And I'm just like so encouraged by how much it encouraged people. Like, thank you for sharing that. And
it's like encouragement inception.
Yeah.
Just keeps going.
Yeah. I was just like, oh, cool. That really resonated with people. And that felt cool. Cause like, again, there are times when you do this for so long, you're like, am I saying anything of value?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I've been crying on the internet for over 3 years now. And I was like, hey, finally said something.
Yeah. So we're going to get into it. Brooke's like kind of taken over the role of producer a little bit, where she's like, hey, I got some plans. I got some notes.
It seems more fitting for my personality.
Yes, it does. Cause like you could literally say, hey, teacher, we're going to record a podcast in 5 minutes. And I'd be like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. And you could say that to me and I would say, all right, let's do it. I could sit down, but I might not have words in brain.
Yeah.
Quite yet.
And so, so I really appreciate what you've been doing, and I'm excited to get into it this week. Go ahead.
I have a review of the week. Can I get there?
Yeah.
Okay. This week's review is titled The Best. 5 stars.
Nice.
I'm into it. These two, I think they mean us. They add encouragement, laughs, and depth to my day, and I'm so blessed by this podcast. Trust me, this podcast is all you never knew. Oh, wow. Is all that you never knew you could be missing in your day, commute, and life. That makes sense. This is my first time reading it out loud. I feel like I already know them and have been friends with them for years and get to share in on all their amazing inside jokes.
Which you'll eventually,
I hope to be a part of them one day.
Which you'll really get to be a part of Black Friday weekend.
Interesting.
Just mark it on your calendar. I'm just going to say that every podcast until Black Friday.
Yeah.
You should mark that day. Or if you subscribe, mark the day before Thanksgiving on your calendar.
Yeah.
Still not sure how we're going to work that out, but.
Right. Also the tears and the heartfelt moments. TJ and Brooke, thanks for sharing your life with us. Okay. I love you. Bye.
Thank you for the review. We love you too. Bye. Okay. After the review, I'll get into some charting.
Oh,
Chart
where
updates.
are we on the charts? Wow.
Okay, so
fill me in while I eat my grapes.
I'm just gonna read what I wrote on the story.
Okay.
A mixed week on the charts as we were hit with a harsh reality that we fell off the charts in South Africa. Maybe it's Elon Musk buying Twitter, or maybe it's something else. It's too early to tell. It also looks like our fan base in Antigua and Barbuda took the week off, or maybe it's because we spent the week discussing whether we say the name of the country correctly.
They were like, I'm not listening anymore.
Not all bad.
I don't know where I am.
Not all bad news as we see some movement in the Netherlands and a huge jump to number 60 for all of podcasts in Honduras. What a historic climb. Still waiting to chart in the U.S., and it's too early to tell whether my parents listen to this week's podcast.
Honduras, man.
Yeah, number 60 in all of podcasts.
I do know where that is, and I have heard of that. But I mean, I've heard of the other ones too. It was just, the funny thing is we've actually been to Antigua. I still don't know how to say it. I've heard people say it both ways.
I've heard it both ways. Well, that should be a sound clip from
Why
Psych.
don't we have any Psych sound clips?
I don't know. We're failing.
All the things he calls
Yeah. Gus.
Wow. My brain is going to think about that for a minute. No, we went there on our honeymoon. That's why we've been
What are
there.
we doing?
Right?
Yeah, we went to Antigua on our honeymoon, not Barbuda.
No. I still am not. I'm still uncertain.
Anyways,
Anyway,
this is not helping us on the charts in Antigua.
I'm Team Antigua.
So I also think we may be charted on the Netherlands because you said, and I quote, Sweden known for their hatred of dogs. And so maybe there's like a beef between Netherlands and Sweden.
And they were like,
oh, the Netherlands were like, Brooke is my person.
yeah.
I don't know what they sound like.
I don't. That sounds a little bit too. Did you sound too close to Russia
Okay. Well, it's an immigrant who's immigrated from Russia to the Netherlands. It's a whole backstory.
to listen to our podcast?
Yeah.
Because they like dogs, unlike Sweden, or they don't like dogs.
Netherlands doesn't like this Netherlands character does not like Swedish people. And so
Oh.
you throwing Sweden under the bus for their
He was all
hatred of
in.
dogs. He was like, I'll get behind that. So now he has started a YouTube channel pointing out how much Swedish people hate dogs. It's not Swedish dogs, it's Swedish fish. That's just one video
Yeah.
in a series of videos. Speaking of YouTube,
Oh boy.
I went down a rabbit hole. Have I discussed this?
I don't know. I'm gonna keep eating my grapes though.
I went down a rabbit hole. I watched this YouTube video of this guy discussing another YouTuber who doesn't believe that Australia is a real place.
Right. His whole YouTube channel
Is dedicated to Australia is
not real.
fake. And
is it
I
the
was
government
like,
or
no. So
fill me in?
the guy was like basically doing like a mini documentary on this other YouTuber. So I was like, it was
You're watching a YouTuber
talking about a YouTuber.
a YouTuber who believes Australia is not real.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I guess within the internet, there are people who believe that the earth is flat.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
We were the flat earthers. Some of those flat earthers believe that Australia can't be real because I guess of the way of the flatness. I don't totally understand that. But that is a theory.
Okay.
That Australia is fake because if the earth was flat, it couldn't exist. I don't know why.
It can't just be part of the flat earth.
I don't know. Maybe it fell off the waterfall at the end. But
Bill
this
from the Netherlands, he knows. We'll ask him.
But this guy, that's not his theory. His theory is that New Zealand,
Okay.
New Zealand, which is near Australia,
Yep. Kind of, quote unquote,
Yeah.
near Australia.
is the worst place you could ever go. So,
That's so funny.
Because-
It's on my
because
travel
New
bucket list.
Zealand had such a bad reputation as the worst place on earth, they created Australia so that
So
Australia
they're not the worst.
would be the worst place. So
They need somebody to throw under the bus. Okay.
So they created Australia. So anytime you fly to Australia, you're actually just
Quote, unquote.
flying to New Zealand, and everybody there is a paid actor from the New Zealand government to act like an Australian. So anybody you've ever met from Australia is a paid actor hired by the New Zealand government.
Wow.
So that New Zealand looks at I was watching this and I was just like, again, this is a shtick. Like it
I was
can't,
gonna say, there's no way
this-
it's real. This
this
is just
can't
what he
be
decided to
real.
make his channel about.
It's sort of like the birds aren't real guys. So like there's another
Babe. We're studying birds and homeschooling, so just look out.
the birds aren't real is birds were all destroyed by the CIA. And because of this, and they were replaced with drones.
Yeah.
And that's why they set on power line
Because they're charging.
because they're charging.
Yeah.
And if you ever find a real bird that's been like hit by a car or dead or captured by a cat and left at your front door, like our cats do, which is real nice when you walk out first thing in the morning. It's just a bird that the CIA hasn't gotten to yet. So they're still in the process.
Still actively
Yeah.
killing birds
and replacing them with drones. Yeah. Or maybe it's
Okay.
the drones are so realistic that it looks like a dead bird.
Ooh.
I think it could go either way. Anyway, so
I like that.
there we are. That's TJ's random rabbit hole of the day.
Wow.
So
DJ's random rabbit hole. That's quite the segment title. What's been going on in your rabbit hole lately? Anything?
that sounds so inappropriate.
I know.
And my first thought was TJ's rabbit TJ's random rabbit hole. Boing.
Anyway, Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
How is it November 1st? My phone right now says Tuesday, November 1st.
That's wild.
Which we're recording this week's even earlier. But so you're going to be like, wait, it's November 1st? By the time you hear this, are you trying to play sound clips? I'm confused. I don't know. Yeah, it's November 1st.
Oh, I know what's going on.
Do you need to fix a cord? Which feels crazy. So on just a couple days ago, when I was like planning out the week ahead,
Yep.
That's a life-changing habit, which we've already kind of talked about that. I just don't think we titled the episode that. I always put the dates at the top. And so it was like October 20, whatever, through November 5th or something. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
How am I writing down the month November already?
Right. It's crazy.
Like I'm actually serious.
Yeah.
How? If I literally go 1 month at a time, I'm like, okay, I remember that. I was there.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah. Of course you're there. It's your life, babe.
I know, but I mean, like I was there in every sense of it. I was present, but that just feels insane.
Yeah.
And October was a very full month for us.
Yes, 100%.
And so I think it feels
October
like
felt like super fast.
Yes, October was just like blasted through, and so I think that's also why I'm surprised.
Yep.
That it's November. So I feel like we should recap October because we have some stories to tell, and then we can head into the topic.
Okay. All right. Do you want me to go first? Or are we doing
October 1st? I woke up.
Oh, suddenly I found myself awake. Do you want me to go first? Or do you want to go first?
I mean, the first big thing that happened in October is my birthday.
100%.
Wow, that happened this past month.
Yep.
I turned 36.
Yeah. Accurate.
Crazy. Then we waited for all the samples to arrive.
Yep.
And we played that game of, are they going to get here in time?
Are we going to have anything
How
to
stressed
sell?
should we be?
How clenched should the buttocks be?
Yes. Should we Google bridges? Is it just for us? Is it for our whole family? Is Abby coming with us? Like all of that. Everything arrived.
We got it all done.
We got it all done.
You guys liked it, which is great. Very encouraged by that.
Yes. We closed up the collection, which was awesome. Did you travel somewhere?
Yeah. I went to...
before the end of the month.
No,
you didn't.
No, I didn't go anywhere.
Oh, wow.
Did I? Was Phoebe there? No, I didn't travel anywhere.
You didn't travel anywhere
this month.
I feel confused about travel.
I went to... In September, I went to Kansas.
Oh.
But that was September and October kind of felt like one giant long month a little bit. But I did go to the music festival. Am I getting into that, or are we going to do what we Googled?
No, I think we should do what we Googled.
Okay.
As the way to go through the month.
Okay. Ding, 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 ding.
I know. We need a better sound clip.
What I Google.
Okay. Are you working in reverse?
What I Google.
Or
what I Googled.
Am I Googling what I Googled this morning? Or
I would appreciate it if you allowed me to finish the sound clip.
Oh.
What I Googled.
What are we doing?
Yes. Nice.
Okay. Oh, actually, it should be what I Googled. I'm struggling today.
I go online. I go click, click, click.
Exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to go in reverse because otherwise I don't know how far to scroll back.
Okay.
On Monday afternoon, I Googled other ways to say, I get it. There's a lot of Googling of other ways to say this month because I made a lot of emails and texts and I sent a lot of marketing things. And it was like, how do I say the same thing a different way?
Yeah.
Also Googled the 5 Little Pumpkins poem because I was reading that with the girls yesterday.
Okay.
The 5 little pumpkins sitting on a something.
Never heard it.
Jude memorized it when she was really, really little because I was like, oh, yeah. I still remember her. And they roll away and
We went to her preschool and she did a thing.
Yes, I like a little thing.
Yep.
See? Okay. Can I call myself between my own Apple devices? So I was trying to figure out if my phone could call my watch, even though it's the same number. And you can.
So yeah, we've been experiencing a new element of parenthood.
Yes.
Where our kids leave our house and bike and scooter around the neighborhood. And so
with other kids.
And so what's crazy is like, when we lived in Pennsylvania, we lived on a pretty busy street. No way we'd have let our kids like scooter in the street. So there was an element of moving here that was like, okay, they're not endangered as much.
They're going to be okay.
They're going to be okay
on our little street.
Yeah, we live in like a loop.
Yeah.
And so like only people who live here come in here. And then when they made friends with kids in the neighborhood, and they're like, "Hey, can I go see if Presley is home?" And it's like, "Oh, okay."
I guess. Yeah, and the only way to do that is to walk all the way around, which is funny because as kids,
that's what we used to do.
We did that all the time.
And
we were
part of that
through
innocence of culture has been lost, and we long for it to be back. And Hawaii has somehow sort of like maintained it to a degree, to more of a degree than I think the mainland has. I'm sure there's pockets and areas in the mainland where parents are listening and they're like, "Oh, that's what my kids do."
Yeah.
But as a parent, for the first time this is happening, it has been like, "Oh, okay. I trust that you're going to walk around the block and find those kids and then walk back, or you're going to play there.
Your 4-year-old sister with you,
and you're
it's
just
going to
be
okay.
safe." And like, and so it's just like, oh boy, oh boy.
So most of the time we'll walk over with them, or we'll just be outside and around. But last week while you were gone, it was just me, and I couldn't leave Daisy at the house because she was sleeping sometimes. And so, so I let June put on my Apple Watch.
Because you wanted her to be back.
I wanted her to be back, and I was like, she has no idea what time it is. Yeah. So I set an alarm on my watch, and I said, when this goes off at 4:30, you need to come back.
Yeah.
But then I also taught her how to call me by saying, "Hey, device, call Brooke Macedas." To which the device always says, "Calling Brooke Macedas," which June thinks is so funny that she says it like that. So she did. She called me about 9 seconds after she scootered away because Sunny had heard her. No, Sunny was stressed out that she forgot to take her underwear off under her bathing suit. Bless her little heart. And she was embarrassed. So, which you couldn't even see it. It was so sweet. But she was all worked up. So it turns out you can call yourself.
That's great.
Go ahead. Do you want me?
Yeah. So, Wally cases. Someone asked about him. Gerard Way.
We're still waiting for the Wally cases to be in the new.
Yeah.
That's my favorite iPhone case, and I'm so sad I don't have one.
Gerard Way, lead singer of My Chemical Romance, Bring on the Horizon, trying to remember the band name. Drummer of Under Oath, was watching his set the whole time and was like, I know this guy's name. It's Aaron something. His other band is the Almost. Aaron something. What is it?
But you didn't have service.
But I didn't have service, so I Googled it after the fact.
Immediately.
Walk in Love's Amazon page, When We Were Young Festival, Emo Kid, because Jeremy's like, what are you going to wear to this festival? So I searched Emo Kid, grabbed an image, sent it back. Black Adam, Dallas Mavericks 2023 schedule. Because we were just seeing if it lined up for an integrated trip. Is there an end credit scene in Black Adam? Last minute flights from BWI to Las Vegas. How old is Paul Hollywood? Las Vegas hotels.
Wait, Paul Hollywood. Okay, so mine is, what are digestive biscuits?
Yeah.
Because we're watching
British Baking Show.
British
Bake
Off
Bake
or whatever. And they had to make s'mores as a technical.
Yeah.
And so a technical is where it's judge blind. And so they don't know what they're going to be asked to make.
Yep.
And so
but they call the graham crackers
skills. Digestive biscuits is a graham cracker. It's the exact same thing. It's just that there's a round. And I was like, but I need to know why.
Why? Did you figure it out?
Yeah, it was like they were believed to help with digestion way back in the day. Turns out not really.
Super false advertising.
But that's also just the name of the biscuit. Like the brand name is digestive. So I know. And we're all talking about it like it was super normal. And I was like, is it though?
Is it?
I mean, I can't understand you. I have the subtitles on, but is it? Where is Barbuda? Yep. Clearly, we're back to last week.
Las Vegas hotels, World Series. I guess the World Series is happening. I was checking on it. Bluey Dalmatian, because Sonny really wanted me to draw the Dalmatian from Bluey.
Yeah.
Had to look up a photo.
Define knapsack. June needed to know, and I was explaining it, and I was like, let me make sure that I'm like actually, and it is. It's like a backpack or something, but specifically typically waterproof.
Okay.
Made for outdoor activities, which I was like, okay, I'm right.
All right.
Is The Rock Hawaiian? Obviously, I was Googling things while you were Googling things about Black Adam.
He's not.
He is not. He lived and grew up in Hawaii.
But he is
Samoan.
And
his dad is Black, but he's from somewhere that surprised me.
Like Netherlands or something.
Yeah. Is he our listener?
Wow.
Bill
Rock.
Bill Rock. Bill Rocket.
Huge longboard. So the girls have created these. Have you seen any of my stories? Created these like mats that they ride on the longboards, but they sell like actual giant longboards that I think like 4 kids could fit on. And
Made for grown-ups.
Yeah, but
yes.
I'm like, man, that'd be fun to get them one of those for Christmas.
Yeah.
It's Dole Whip dairy free. It is.
It is, and it's delicious.
It's so good.
Puffin bird. We're studying birds in school right now. Is it okay for chickens to eat bird seed? The girls want to feed all the birds outside. And so here on Maui, when you're feeding just like normal neighborhood birds, loads of chickens are involved in that.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I think it's okay for them to eat that, but I'm just going to make sure. Are there owls on Maui? Lots of owl stuff.
Yes or no?
Yes, there are a couple kinds. Owl poop bones, Google image search. So 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I had the girls like to sleep in the guest room on Saturday nights. It's called Big Bed Saturday, and they get to move and sleep over there. And June wanted me to sleep with them. And so June and I
was gone.
2 weeks ago. See, that's where I'm like, didn't you go somewhere? Why? Or did I just have a sleepover and you were upstairs?
No. What is happening?
That's what I'm saying. Why do I feel like there was travel? No, I was supposed to travel in and around the samples. I was supposed to go to Scottsdale and I didn't. Maybe that's what because my brain was like, there was a trip around sample arrival. What's happening? Anyway, we had a sleepover and the girls couldn't fall asleep, or maybe I didn't sleep there. Maybe I was just laying in bed trying to get them to sleep. That might be what it is. And they were like, tell us a story about when you were little. So naturally,
I blacked out.
I had nothing to say. No, I segued into that my brother and I used to spend a lot of time in the woods behind my parents' house, which is also behind, at the time, my grandparents' house, because their houses are kind of sort of back to back. And so I was explaining that we just used to spend a lot of time playing down there, like in every season. You could sled through it. We played in the summer. We played in the creek, blah, blah.
Did you play in the spring?
Yeah, that's a real possibility.
What about the fall?
For sure. I could see that
Late
happening.
fall?
Yeah, I think so. And so I said, and something that we would find is owl poop. And I said, to which June, who's like, I'm so uncomfortable, my body pillow. Like she can't get herself to be comfortable. She like perks up when I say that. And I said, because there's bones inside of it. Boom, totally sitting upright. No longer falling asleep. She's engaged. Why are there bones inside of it? And I said, well, owls eat their food whole. And so they swallow the entire mouse or the entire whatever. And so all of that has to come out. And so you can find it in their little pellets and you can like dissect them. So this led down a long rabbit hole of 8:30 p.m. Googling owl poop images, showing people dissecting them and how they have like charts. You can have like an owl poop chart that you print out, probably from like Pinterest. And it's like all the things an owl might eat. And then it's like the skeleton and you can be like, ooh, here's the femur. You can like line it up. So
wow. I think we end on that Google search. I don't think it gets much better than that.
it probably doesn't. Do toucans live on Maui? Just lots of bird questions.
Yeah, a lot of birds. We're studying birds.
A lot of bird questions.
That's good. Okay.
So that was pretty much my month.
Oh man,
And
that's
then
so good.
we toyed back and forth with whether or not you should go to the When We Were Young festival.
Yes, and I decided to go. So we
were flip flop.
Yeah, and it was, I talked about it a little bit last week, but my friend Jeremy decided he could go, so he met me there. I left Maui on Friday during the day and then got into Vegas midnight, essentially the next day. Like it was a little bit after
But you
midnight.
still hadn't gone to bed.
Still hadn't gone to bed.
Yeah.
I watched Bullet Train on the airplane and, or I watched Elvis on the airplane there, Bullet Train on the way back. Which I now do movie reviews on subscriptions for Walk and Love Instagram subscribers. Reviewed Black Adam. I should make a highlighted story so if anybody subscribes and they want to go back, they could do that.
Yes.
Just thinking out loud.
Click. Yeah.
Yeah. So we get there. Jeremy's come from the East Coast on Spirit Airlines. God bless his soul. And we find each other in the airport. We get in our Uber. We go to Palace Station, one of the finest hotels in all of Las Vegas. It actually wasn't too bad. We check in and we go right to bed. He's tired. It's 3 a.m. for him.
Yeah.
I'm tired. It's only like like 9 o'clock for me, but I'm still
Right.
like, I want to go to bed. So we sleep, we wake up, suddenly we find ourselves awake, we get coffee, we get breakfast, and then we take an Uber to Planet Hollywood to revisit the scene of the crime.
Obviously.
First, what we did is we tried to see if Ben and Jerry's was open. It did not open until 11, which is why I did not go. So I tried, but it didn't open at 11. The festival started at noon, and they were really making a point on the festival Instagram to like get there early. There will be lines. Like you want to make sure that you get in enough time if you want to see one of those early bands.
Yeah.
Which I did. And so revisited Planet Hollywood. Then we walked around the casino. Jeremy was like, should we gamble? And I was like, do you want to lose the money that you have? And he's like, no. And I said, then we shouldn't. He goes, let's just try to find something cheap to gamble. Casinos are overwhelming.
Yes.
And so like we walked around and realized I don't want to lose money.
Yeah.
So we left. And then we went back to the hotel, had a really interesting conversation with Ron, the Uber driver, about all of his ex-wives, which is a little sad. And you're just like, okay, I want to get out of this car. Like,
Yeah.
Like Ron was an oversharer, you know? And so, we wished him well, got out, got ready for the festival, very confused about what to wear because at the time it was like 60 and sunny. So it was like jeans and a shirt would have been fine.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, then it's going to get hot in the 70s and 80s. So should I wear shorts and a t-shirt? But then at night it was like projected to be 40.
Which is real cold.
Very
real
cold.
Real fast, especially if it's windy at all.
And so we decided to go jeans, t-shirt, carry the sweatshirts. Jeremy wore all tan if you saw my stories. And if you didn't see my stories, on Walk in Love, there's a highlight called Vegas Trip where I tell the Ben and Jerry story and then you actually see my trip.
Okay.
And so there were a few bands that I definitely wanted to see. One of them was early. It was Seosin, and they were playing kind of early in the day.
Mm-hmm.
We started walking in, a sea of black, black t-shirts, black jeans, skinny jeans,
Black shoes, black tights, black hair.
And so honestly, so my honest thought was like, I am going to see a lot of guys like me and Jeremy, like guys that are older, but they look normal.
Yeah.
But they're just here because they're reminiscing of the glory days.
They're here for the just the music.
Yeah, and
not the culture of it.
Shocked, legitimately shocked how out there some people were dressed.
Yeah.
I
feel like that's festival culture now. Now that there's social media with festival culture.
And maybe that's true, but I was
feel
also
like it wasn't
crazy. 20-year-olds though.
No.
Some of these people had city miles on them.
Yeah.
And were essentially wearing lingerie.
Yes.
In public.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is and I was like, Jeremy, you're having a little bit of skin shock right now. And he's like, 100%. And I was like, I was like, I see someone's butt cheeks almost every week at the beach in Maui.
I don't have the skin shock like I used to.
But
now that I live somewhere warm, and it's just
But he was definitely feeling it, and it was just weird. And so part of me is like, ladies, you should not be wearing this. Mm-hmm. There's part of me that's very fatherly. That's this is not appropriate. This is not okay. Your dads would not approve.
Does your Apple Watch call your father?
You need
to check in.
Worthy of love.
Yes.
Outside of dressing like this.
Yes.
So that's part of my reaction. The second circle of the Venn diagram of my reaction is this is not practical.
No.
For a day of standing and moving and walking and jumping around and dancing.
Wild temperature changes.
It's just not practical. So you're making bad choices. And then and so it's just I find myself fighting within that. Yeah. And then the third one is aren't you a little embarrassed?
I don't know. I don't think
maybe
they are.
Not. And maybe not. So be it. So we're walking. It's funny. We wait in line to get in. We get in, and then there's tons of vendors. Probably one of the festivals with the most vendors I've ever seen. Food vendors.
Okay.
Food and drink vendors. We walk in. There's
because they weren't letting you out, right?
No, you could.
Oh, you could go out.
But it was because of the way they packed the schedule so tightly,
you didn't.
It was very impractical for you to leave and come back.
Yeah.
And so many food vendors, and we walk in, and there's a giant line at the bar. These people waited in line to get in, straight to the bar.
To be in another line.
We're going to wait in another line.
Yeah.
And then we kind of walk through. There was some cool art installations. There was a big cool arch. It was just fun. Just cool to see stuff stuff you don't see on Maui.
They did a good job. It looked as a immersive experience.
Yeah. And so we walk around the corner, and then there's literally 50 to 100 bar vendors with no one in line. So like people just saw the first one, wait in line, and then like we like walked maybe 50 feet around a corner, and it was like, oh,
here's everybody else.
Yeah, we could get as many drinks as we want without waiting a single. I don't drink, so it was like, but it was just funny to see that.
Yeah.
So then we're walking to see Seosin, who's a band I've always wanted to see. Very heavy band. I don't listen to him really much anymore, but I've always wanted to see him. And there's this band playing called the Linda Lindas, who I've never heard before. A bunch of young Asian girls.
Yeah.
Like that's what the makeup of the band is. Like some of them had braces, so I don't know how young they are.
Yeah.
Very like pop punk.
Yeah.
Some 41 style music, like not my vibe, but like, as a dad, I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of you guys. You're just out here trying your best.
You're just doing it.
And so this lead singer's up there and she's like trying to talk between songs, and you can tell she's super nervous. And then she gets up and says, my favorite line of the entire festival.
Okay,
she's
I'm ready.
Like,
I'm ready.
She's like, hey, so I really like wild animals. Don't forget to vote. And then there's the song.
Segue. The festival people were like, okay, we need y'all to talk about voting. We need you all to talk about this. We need you all to talk about that. And they're like, oh gosh, how am I going to work that into my set list?
What?
I know.
This girl doesn't look old enough to vote. 2.
No, she probably can't.
2. Am I voting for a wild animal or
am I voting to protect them? Am I voting because I don't like them? Is someone running on an anti-wild animal ticket?
And who is?
Okay, I don't want to vote for them.
Vote for Bill. He hates wild animals.
Yeah, Bill from the Netherlands.
Stake in the ground.
Yeah. I'm running on this topic.
I really like
wild animals.
It was like, honestly,
we should put that on a t-shirt.
The first line I heard someone say at the festival.
Yeah, and you're like, what? Where am I?
Like, I'm so glad we got here early. Oh, it just wrecked me. And so Jeremy and I were joking. Yeah, we were joking about it all day. And so, yeah, I really like wild animals. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
And so then we watched Seosin, super heavy. He definitely my only complaint about the festival was that the orientation of it was really smoothly run, but there was like so there were 2 main stages, the pink stage and the black stage. I had a general admission ticket, so I could get in front of the black stage as close as I could get.
Okay.
But in front of the pink stage was VIP tickets only. They sold a lot of them. There were a lot of people in there, but if there was a band playing on the pink stage, I could only get so close. And so I felt like this, I think they did it for safety. Like people weren't getting smashed up against the
trapped, unable to leave the barrier.
And so like there was definitely a reason for it, but I did feel bad for the bands because like if you had a VIP ticket and your favorite band was playing on the black stage, you would have to like go and come around and like, so like it felt like the biggest fans of each band weren't as close as they could get. And I felt like the energy in some of the audiences was weird, that like you were just there for the next band.
Or even the people playing, it was like the people right in front of you maybe weren't your biggest fans.
Right.
It was the people out there.
Yeah, or to the side, and so for safety reasons, I enjoyed it, but like, like Paramore played on the pink stage, and so like we couldn't get
any
that close. And then there was like a close area to the stage where they were only allowing a certain amount of people into that area. And so we kind of got in that area early on, and then we're like, well, if we leave, we're probably not getting back in here. So we ended up staying. So it was just like, there was some like barriers and weird things that like, I was just like, I think it's for safety, but it also just,
it's like, it makes sense in some ways,
but in some ways it was just like very kind of confusing. So I saw Seosin, then Under Oath played. I was kind of sad. Some of these bands who I knew growing up were Christians are definitely not anymore. And so there was
so it felt, I mean, or was that super obvious?
It's been like, it's obvious. And then if you go to like their Instagram or their social media, it's like even more obvious.
Okay.
And to me, it's like so disheartening. And it shows that like, that once you become any sort of element of famous, there is like part of that life that draws you away from God. Yes. And like, you have to fight to like kind of fight against that, because like I felt it with Under Oath. and Aaron Gillespie, I think, is like almost anti-Christian now, at least from what someone messaged me and told me. And he like wrote worship albums. And so it's just
a
like,
couple years ago, there was like one of my favorites.
Yeah. And so
we
it's
listened
like,
to that a lot.
It's disheartening.
According to what somebody said. You don't actually know.
But like, I mean, they were swearing and saying the F word. Like that was another thing about the festival that I was like, oh my word. Like there are other adjectives besides the F word that you guys can use.
Yeah.
and to me, I've always felt like in comedy or in like making your point,
right.
swearing is the easiest, cheapest way to do it.
Right.
And like it takes intellect to not swear and like get people excited or tell a funny joke. And like, so like the people that don't swear are actually working harder to do those kinds of things.
Yes. Than a comedian who just drops it left and right. And you're like,
okay, we
that's
get
not
it.
that
like,
funny when you do it that much.
So that was like kind of a culture shock for me. Like, I was just like, gosh, it's a little bit exhausting. Anyways, like, so that was a little disheartening to kind of see that evolution of like these bands used to play at Purple Door, Cornerstone, or Creation. And now they're like, they've just kind of, it appears, again, I don't know their hearts, but it appears that they've walked away. And we've seen that with Fame and other regards in culture that like, you know, people are like, and you just see it slowly drift away.
Yeah.
And that's just like really sad and something that I just like, that hurts me to see.
Yeah.
But it's all under oath. They were good. And then we were like, we wanted to see the starting line. So we left the main area. When the starting line was probably the band I was like happiest during. Cause like, they're just that perfect blend of like pop and emo and just like happy sounding. And they've been gone for 20 years or something. Like it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Since they've been playing music. And so it was super fun to see them. But right before them, Story of the Year played, who I like only know the one main song, Until the Day I Die. You know.
Yeah.
And there were some bands that felt like, oh, they've matured and grown up. And then there were some bands like Story of the Year, like all the guys were dressed a little too young than what they were. And you were just like, that
doesn't add up.
It's just not a good look. It's not a good look to see someone in their mid 40s with super skin tight skinny jeans and like a skin tight shirt on. Yeah. You know, like you're like, I see your belly. Like you got a little pouch there. It's okay. You're 40. Like I get it. It happens to us. It's gonna happen to all of us at some point. But it's still just not a great look. Right. And then there were other bands like Jimmy Eat World, Dashboard Confessional, who like felt like they've grown up and their music has progressed and just their maturity level has progressed. Like because we were situating ourselves to see certain bands, we saw other bands that maybe we didn't want to see. Like I saw The Used, who that lead singer was probably the most obnoxious front man the whole day.
Oh man.
Like kept giving people the middle finger and swearing at people and making crude and crass comments towards people. And like, it was just like, golly, like you're probably a dad.
Well, maybe.
You know, like it's just
for the age of that. Yes.
It's just like hard to watch for me.
Yeah.
And then you get Chris from Dashboard. He's like, hey guys, like we're just so thankful that you've like given us this great career. And like, we're just going to play some of our old stuff because we know that that's what you're here for. And, you know, and like, you know, like
he knew the mission,
you know, and I know him like personally, like I don't know him personally, but I know about his like personal life that he's like super private. He's got kids. He's got a wife that he's been married to for I think 20 some years. Like, you know, so like you just see like, oh, this is like a well-rounded human being. Yeah. And then juxtaposed with a guy giving people the middle finger and making crass jokes. Yeah. It's just like, that was just like so glaring. Yeah. That just like, man, some of you have not matured or appeared to have not matured since you were doing this 20 years ago. And that is, to me, as that just like kind of breaks my heart of just like that.
Oh, and you think of, and again, people in fame, people in positions of fame or on stages, I just feel like they're just a little micro, like so many people are like that. Yeah. So many people have not matured at all in the last 20 years. And they're just like a little micro glimpse into like different pockets of people. Yeah. And it's like, it is sad.
And so there were some people that were super hard to watch. Like The Used was one of them. Bright Eyes, who I'd never seen before. Don't really know Bright Eyes music, but it felt like he was having like a nervous breakdown on stage. Like it was like,
that's not fun to watch.
Hard to watch. And he was just like weird and like started like trying to flip over the smoke machine and like knocking down people's cameras. And like, it was just like very, very uncomfortable. Yeah. And then there were bands that I'd never seen. Like I'm not a big heavy music fan. So A Day to Remember is very, very heavy. Yeah. And they put on an incredible show. Yeah. Like I was just like, man, these guys sound tight and good, and their energy is great. And like, again, not my vibe, but like there was some stuff
But
like
still,
that
you
where
didn't
it's
have
just
to
like,
love the music personally to feel like
AFI
that
was
was a
another
great
one.
show.
AFI has been a band for 31 years, he said.
Wow.
And the guy I think is in his 60s.
Yeah.
And he could sing, and he was still had great stage presence. And so like there were some things that like by default where we were trying to situate ourselves for the next band, we saw these other bands. And then there was a band that played before Dashboard that I'd never heard of. And the whole time, it's like I felt like such a dad. He had the worst posture I'd ever seen of like just like, you know, if you're watching, he's just like hunched and like, and I was just like, I just kept wanting to be like, all right,
oh, son, stand
just
up.
stand up. You're worth it. You're worthy of love.
You're having all these emotional, internal.
God loves you. Just come down.
1, 2, 3, 4. Every time.
Let's go crazy. I was like, okay. And then seeing people in the mosh pit, I was like, it just hurt watching. And then about like halfway through, I was like, my back hurts. My legs hurt. I'm tired of standing.
Yeah.
This is exhausting. I don't know why people do this for
Yeah.
fun. It still was fun, but I was just like, I feel old.
Yeah.
I do not feel like this is my thing anymore.
Yeah.
But it was still super fun. And overall, just like so fun that I got to go with Jeremy. Like I can't thank him enough for being the type of friend that was like, yeah, I'm going to come.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it work. And like, it's like, thank him and his wife and you, Brooke, like that we were just able to do that together, because that's like, it's going to be a lifelong memory that we have.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just tons of fun.
Yeah. So what's your Mount Rushmore
Okay.
of the 4 bands that you enjoyed the most?
That I enjoyed the most.
Not necessarily in order. Just your top 4
just
that
top
you enjoyed.
4 that I enjoyed. Jimmy Eat World. It was like they pressed play on their album and it was live.
And
like they were so clean and tight and awesome. And again, he just like felt like he had an attitude of gratitude.
yeah.
Of just like thankfulness of like for the people that were in the audience, and that just like he was just glad that like this is my career. You guys gave it to me. I'm really grateful. So like they were one. Dashboard started off like their sound mix was way bad, but then someone fixed it as it went on. But like, again, similar, just like a heart full of gratitude and just like really just thankful and never seen him before. We didn't stay through the whole starting line set, but that was like probably the moment of like, I wasn't tired yet. My back didn't hurt yet. My legs weren't tired yet. And like, I was just like, this is so cool that someone did this festival. Like
that these bands are here.
That these bands are here.
Yeah.
And like that.
They figured it out.
Yeah. It was just like very cool to see. And like, it was funny. We were standing waiting for starting line. And I was like, I feel like such a dad now because I want to be like, so where y'all from?
Yeah.
You know, who are you excited to see? Like questions I would ask my kids.
Yes.
Like, you know, like, what was your favorite part so far? It was just like, I was just having those
Everybody
thoughts.
sit down, hold hands. We're going to do highlights of the day.
You know, like, was your most positive emotion so far? Was your most negative emotion? So probably them. I wish we would have stayed for their whole set, but we felt like we were going to miss Dashboard. So we left them a little bit earlier than I wanted to.
Yeah.
And then, oh man, who would be the last one? Death Cab was really good. They sounded really tight. Paramore was excellent. She can sing.
Yeah.
And
which we've known, but
and move, like sing and move. Like Taking Back Sunday, they sounded so bad. Like he sounded out of breath just standing there. And I think he was drunk, which was also sad. And people message him like, oh, the shows I've seen him, he's been drunk. Like,
I mean, the show we saw him years ago, he was drunk, but they still sounded great.
And so they sounded bad. Like Jeremy was just like, what? People don't clap for this. This is not worthy. And he was really excited because he had never seen them. So he was like really excited.
Oh, he was excited to see
And so they were like a big letdown. But Haley from Paramore, she can sing and move around at the same time like nothing else.
Yeah.
You know, hers was a little sad for me of just like, it feels like the Christian ideals that you like started with aren't there anymore. And it feels like sort of the woke identity politics have sort of taken a heavy front stage in your life. And that to me is just so sad. Yeah. Like, it's just not, you know, it's just sad. Yeah. Like, and just like weird mixed messaging sometimes from the frontmen on stage of just like talking about things that I'm just like, I don't think you fully understand what you're saying. Yeah. And so let's just sing some songs and let's keep that on your inside voice. Okay. I think everybody would appreciate that here.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe if they don't, I would. Yeah. But overall, top 4, Jimmy Eat World, Dashboard, Death Cab, Paramore, starting line.
You're gonna have 5.
Yeah.
You're gonna add one of their faces to your Mount Rushmore.
But then we so we finished. My Chemical Romance started playing. They were the closer. I've seen them a bunch of times. So one thing I do appreciate.
Would you have stayed though if Avril closed?
Probably. Yeah.
She was supposed to be on that, and she couldn't make it to that date then.
And so what's crazy is like, so people see My Chemical Romance out there. They're the big headliner. Like they have millions of fans, huge band.
Yeah.
I've seen My Chemical Romance open for probably 10 different bands in high school and college.
Yeah.
And so like, it's always cool to me
That's
to
crazy.
see like again, consistency and like it just takes time to build anything big.
Yeah.
And so like to see them on stage, it's like, you know, he's weird and like they've got a weird kind of dark vibe for me.
Yeah.
But it's just like I saw you open at the Chameleon Club. Like you weren't even just like the second head, like it wasn't like, oh, Taking Back Sunday with My Chemical Romance. It's like Taking Back Sunday with all these bands.
And they're maybe one of them.
And they're opening before 3 other bands. And so it's just like, man, what an arc. Like what a climb from that to this. And I, you know, and I've been alive long enough to watch
something like
that. You know, so that was cool. But we walked back. We were so tired, like basically collapsing in the elevator. We ordered pizza on DoorDash. And then I posted this selfie of us eating pizza in bed. And someone replied, I was like, you guys look like hospital patients.
Yeah, you guys looked rough, but it was pretty funny. Yeah.
And so, it was overall really well. And I know I spent a lot of time talking about it, but it does go hand in hand with our topic. And the reason I've talked about it so much is like our topic of the day is the life-changing practice of travel, and that travel and traveling is worth it. And while this trip was like, I was there,
whirlwind.
I did it, I came back, you know, we had Halloween, like it was just like, I felt some of the physical repercussions of it. It was just so worth it, especially when like the unexpectedness of Jeremy and just like the ability to connect with him was just like, it was like, you know, we'll go back to Pennsylvania for Christmas. I might hang out with him and some of the guys at dinner, and like that has value.
That Christmas trip's packed pretty tight already. But
like this was just so incredibly value and like almost, and I think what travel does to you and to your heart and your soul is like it, you know, to use like a inside out metaphor, it like gives you a core memory. Like travel is a place where core memories are birthed. Yeah. And so it just is such an incredible practice to put into your lives, whether it's yearly or quarterly or, you know, however you can manage it, because it just does something to you. And I felt that, like, as Brooke and I are talking about life-changing things, again, we're not talking about them in order. Like, it's not like, oh, you got to do this one and then this one.
It's not like Sabbath is the most important. Now travel somewhere. Not at all.
No, it's just like, we're just talking about them as we feel like we have a bunch that we have thought of, but I've just felt like the travel one would be such a valuable one this time because I just come off of it.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to go to the festival. Yep. Obviously, we bought tickets for both of us to go. It didn't work out. Then we couldn't figure out. I didn't really want to figure out all the childcare. That felt like a lot of coins being spent for me. And then I really decided not to go because I have decided to travel back to Pennsylvania.
Yep.
By the time you're listening to this, I will be in Pennsylvania. As a surprise, I'm taking the 2 big girls with me. And as I'm speaking in this moment, we leave tomorrow. Yeah. Which is why we're recording so far early in the week. But it was like, okay, I can't go to that festival, leave the girls with people, and then come back and swirl around. And like, that's just too much. But yeah, we're traveling back. We're traveling back mostly because, so my dad's been a kids and family music, like performing singer-songwriter my whole life. And it is his 30th anniversary of when his first album came out. Like how long he's been doing this. And so there's like a big concert to celebrate. And I just felt like, man, I think I want to be there for that. And like, that feels crazy to travel that far for an hour and a half, maybe kids concert to where I already know all the music.
I mean,
and
it felt crazy to travel that far for a whole day of festivals. Like I was just like, oh gosh, that's a lot, you know?
You know, it's one thing, but then I was like, well, like, you know, I know the girls will remember it. And like, I think it would mean a lot to my dad. And, yeah. So anyway, I'm about to travel. And so that is why we picked this topic. And so you keep saying like, I don't know, I feel like it does something to you. So I Googled it.
Okay.
It does. Traveling does do something to you. Okay. So these are not my quotes. And they're just like, half of them are just like, you know how Google answers, like it just suggests an answer right at the top and it pulls it from somewhere.
Puts the bridges.
Yeah. Bridges near me. Turn around. Ah, there's one right there. Yeah. So there is real brain science behind travel.
Brooks Brain Science.
Brain science with Brooke. Here we go.
Brooks Brain BBS.
Okay. It's better than TJ's rabbit hole, but whatever. Travel helps your brain function better
I have a great rabbit hole.
and boosts creativity. Immersing yourself in new cultures increases your mind's ability to move between different ideas, think more deeply, and integrate thoughts. That was one answer.
Read that again.
Then I Googled it. I said, is traveling good for you? So that was one of the answers.
Okay.
And then what does traveling do to your brain? And then I had another way to ask that. And these were the top 3 answers.
Okay.
So I'll read that again.
Yeah.
Travel helps your brain function better and boosts creativity. Immersing yourself in new cultures increases your mind's ability to move between different ideas, think more deeply, and integrate thoughts. Answer number 2. Travel can change the way your brain works. Travel can help reduce stress and depression, increase creativity and problem-solving skills, and strengthen your sense of self. Remind me to come back to that sense of self. Answer number 3. Traveling has the ability to take you out of your daily routine and into new surroundings and experiences, and this can reset your body and mind. Even planning a trip can have a fantastic effect on the body as it boosts happiness and feels rewarding. I mean, I would say like...
Wow.
Yes, 100% on all of those things. And I agree with that. And what's interesting is I actually traveled a decent amount growing up. Like my mom has a lot of siblings and family all over the country. And so by default, if we wanted to see them, we were driving to North Carolina, or we were driving to Michigan, or we were driving to Florida, or we were flying to Arizona or Nebraska or Kansas, or like there's just people were just spread out. And so
Are you saying see the world?
Right.
Or Sea World?
Not sure. Never been to a SeaWorld. Actually, I might have been to a SeaWorld. No, I don't remember. But we did travel a good amount. And it was one of the reasons my parents homeschooled us for a brief period of time, was so that we could travel with my dad's schedule. He would sometimes get shows and concerts out of state. And he'd be like, well, if I'm going to go all the way to Michigan for one, let's book 10 days worth of concerts and we'll just
Everybody
do
go
school
together.
out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And so that was fun, which is funny because you traveled a ton growing up as a kid.
100%.
As your mom is a flight attendant.
Yeah.
Like probably more than the average family.
Yes.
And even I felt like we traveled a
Yeah.
little bit more than the average family. And so coming into our marriage, we have traveled a lot. And it's not like we sat down at any point or had a conversation of like, traveling's really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's, some people are so like travel experience heavy, and that's fine. But it's very obvious about their personalities.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you guys are like adventure seeker people.
Yeah.
You have shoes and look like you might live in Colorado.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
I don't feel like that's us.
No.
Necessarily.
Right.
And so it's been cool to see how much we have
None of my
traveled
shoes have a place for each toe.
for each show. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they never will.
And then,
Spoiler alert.
yeah. And so I just feel like we have traveled a lot. When we photographed weddings, we did that all over the country and sometimes to other places, which is why I was like, were we there on a honeymoon or were we there for a wedding?
Right.
Because we did bop around to some different islands and stuff, which was awesome. And then even after having kids, we would at least travel maybe to California to see
Where my sister lives.
your sister, or we've come to Maui a couple times for work things. And then we brought kids along. And why I said I wanted to come back to that sense of self is that I absolutely believe that travel does all these other things.
Yes.
Like it does allow you to integrate and think more deeply. I think the time away from your daily routine.
Yeah, like we talked about.
It's such a reset.
Yet last week is like, so much of our life is head down. We're trying to figure out things, plan things, make dinner, get work done, take care of kids, all that kind of stuff, head down, figure out what we're going to do with our lives, all that kind of stuff. And then it's like you go and travel and you're like, oh, look how beautiful it is here.
Right. Yes.
Oh, look at that sunset. Oh, look at those clouds.
Yeah. Oh, look at my kid.
Yeah. And so there is just this element of travel that just like reorients you to not such like a head down, like
in the grind of
life, which like there are seasons where that's just needed, but travel is this really nice like escape of, whoa, there's like other things. And
yeah. And you saying the word escape is like, I do think sadly there are some people who live for the vacation, who only live for the in that terms of travel. Like, everything is shoved into their 9-day vacation they take from work, and it's like all they live for. And then I'm like, oh man, that makes me kind of sad. Like, yes, vacation is an escape, but I think a positive,
like a reorientation.
a positive version of that word. But back to the sense of self, when I think about some of the bigger decisions, the bigger, like huge, not even course corrections, but like, we're not even going to be on this course anymore. Let's jump over here and do this or change this. Almost all of them have either been talked about on a trip
or that was like their first,
in the months, in the 30 to 45 days following a trip.
Yeah. The conversations are always first birthed at a trip of like, I mean, even living here, that was birthed out of like visiting here. Like, do you think we could live here? Like, that seems crazy. And like, we talked ourselves out of it. And then we did talk ourselves out of it.
But when we decided to close our retail stores, we were not home. When we decided to stop doing our iPhone app, we were not home.
Mm-hmm.
When we decided
to start an iPhone app.
Exactly. It's not always stop things, but so many of our conversations of like, who are we? Who do we want to be?
Where are we going?
Where are we going? Where are we? I think that every time we drive that way over the mountain and I see it and it looks like Lost, the TV show. Have come out of our trips and our travel. And it's not like we were like, okay, it's such an important habit, we're going to do it every quarter, or it's not planned out like that. But I mean, we joked that in 2020, unintentionally, amidst all the COVID craziness, it was the year we traveled the most. Yeah. As a family, we took 5 trips that took us out of state for like over a week at a time. In the midst of it all, it just is how it worked out. And I think that was for a lot of people in a lot of ways, but for us in other ways, it was a really life-changing year because of all that travel. Yeah. Not just because of all the other 2020-ness. Yeah. So I think people, because I've been there and so I can speak from experience, talk themselves out of traveling.
Yes.
Or don't make it a priority for a couple different reasons. Yeah. And so we talked about this in advance. I think
Can I say something before you get into this?
Yeah.
I think and we've talked about travel at Integrated, and one of the guys referred to it as like, it's a week or 10 days or 5 days or a weekend or whatever it is of giving you X amount of Sabbaths in a row. Like if I'm going on vacation for a week, you're getting 7 Sabbaths in a row. And so like, we talked about Sabbath last week, as you practice the life-giving habit of Sabbath, the rhythm of Sabbath, you start to see those benefits. And then once you go on vacation, it's almost like you go away from like super hard vacation, like let's go do everything. And you're like, oh no, I have a rhythm for this rest. I understand what restfulness actually is. Yeah. And so you implement what you've learned in Sabbath in your trips away, but then you get 7 days of them in a row or 5 days or a weekend. And you're like, wow, it didn't take us 3 days to just relax, to enjoy the rest of the 4 days. Yes. We were able to take our family and jump into a attitude of rest and rejuvenation and recovery. And so like the conversations that after you implement Sabbath and then you go on a trip, I think you'll notice that like, wow, we got to those deeper, more heart-filled conversations quicker because we knew what we were doing. Yeah. And so it's like when
your body knows what it's doing.
And so like, it's been really cool to kind of compound these two things that we're talking about back-to-back weeks of like, we practice the rhythm of Sabbath and then we take it with us when we travel and we see the huge benefit of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I think a lot of people, have these busy lives where they are head down, where they haven't put much thought into what they want or are chasing after or anything like that. And so then they're like, vacation's going to fix it all. Yeah. And they're just as busy and crazed during a 9-day vacation. And then the joke is like, I need a vacation after my vacation. I'm like, I actually think you need more than just a vacation, but
you need a weekly, almost like a weekly day of rest.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Almost like you were designed for it.
Feels like that would really work out.
Yeah, I think it would.
Yeah, that's really, really true. And another thing that I think travel can do, since y'all loved Bianca, and last week when I was, or 2 weeks ago or whenever it was that I was like, oh, Bianca and I just talked about that. They just did a bunch of traveling and she was over and we were talking about it. And she's like, we just felt like we were different people on that trip. Mm-hmm. And that made us, go like, or, swirl into the like, should we move? And blah, blah, blah. That we used to do all the time traveling anywhere.
No matter where we traveled, I would look at real estate and be like, this is the place.
This is the place for us. swirling around through all of that, which is very normal when traveling anywhere.
Because again, you go from head down.
Yes, you go from head down to
up.
looking up, and maybe there's time for conversation. There's time to do X, Y, Z with your kids. And so you feel like we're better people here.
Yeah, and it's because of this place.
Right. And it's not. And so when Bianca and I were talking about it, we were just discussing sort of how no, it's just that they have and we have, and a lot of people do, that we are trying to be intentional people. We're trying to put in the work and the effort to grow and to mature and to be self-aware. And we are trying to grow and be better. And sometimes when we are just in the head down hustle of just life and young kids, we don't actually see the progress we're making.
Yeah.
And then we go away, and that's what happened for them. They were able to look up, because they didn't go with kids. They were able to look up at each other and be like, we're better people here. And it was like,
cool.
no, that's the first time they've had a hot minute to look up and realize the progress they've made.
Yes.
Bless them, which is so true.
And we've experienced that many
we
times.
have experienced that. And I share that only, which I think it's fine that I share that. I share that only because if that's you and you're like, we always feel like we are better people elsewhere. I think you are those people back at your house. It's just that
you're giving yourself the mental space to acknowledge it. And
be like,
and
look how far we've come.
Appreciate it too.
And just sit in it. And that's such a great thing.
Yeah.
Travel does help mark the time of hey, we made it from here to there.
Yeah.
We're doing okay.
And speaking to intentionality, Brooke and I hope that we are living pretty intentional lives. And from what we've read and seen from comments is that's something that you guys appreciate that we do. And again, our goal is to try to give you language to live a more full life. And so if you're listening to this, you're in that, you're trying to be more intentional with your time, your parenting, your faith, your money, all those kinds of things. And so we aren't telling you just to book the trip, that's just not our attitude.
No.
It's taking this intentionality and adding the rest that travel brings will create something magical. And so getting in the habit of doing that will have just again, that bell curve effect of wow, this really makes a difference. And we've made some life-changing decisions, and we've seen some of the best growth coming off of trips and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's not just take a trip,
Instagram the whole thing and come home and get back at it.
Yeah. And so again, just that attitude of intentionality you have towards talking about money or talking about relationships or emotions or faith or Sabbath, take that with you when you travel on your vacation or away for the weekend.
Yeah.
And watch it just do something kind of magical to you and your spouse or you and your family. And so, it's just it's just such a great practice to get into. Yeah. Which is, I think was Brooke was about to tell us is okay.
Yeah.
There's some of you, there's some of you right now who are these are my excuses why I don't.
I was gonna say there's an actual phrase in the Instagram world, and I can't, it's it's not adventure culture. It's the people who only take photos on edges of cliffs and clearly travel everywhere all the time and have a blanket wrapped around them. And there's a term for it, and I can't think of it, but to what you were saying, that's not what that's not what we're talking about. Go have some adventure where you just feel like you're the coolest, and then that's the only point. That's not that's not the kind of travel we're advocating for here.
But if your travel includes adventure, and
absolutely, I'm not saying don't do that, but that's not.
Anyway,
not in that way.
So people are gonna have some excuses.
I don't have the time.
Again,
I don't have the money.
Okay. Yep.
I have young kids. Or the reason of just indecision. I don't know where to go.
Okay.
I feel overwhelmed.
Let me start with I don't have the time.
Okay.
And I would challenge you that don't have the time to write down everything you do in a month. Literally moment to moment. Even a week, even a day. And I'm guessing there will be things on those lists that you can cut out.
Especially if you write it down for a week.
Netflix shows, scrolling on Instagram, entertainment in general. And so we have time for the things that we want time for, and we make time for the things that matter. Unfortunately, in the digital age, our brains are literally being tricked into thinking that some of this digital entertainment matters more than it does.
Yeah.
And so we really have to set up rules and, guardrails to protect our brains from getting tricked into that. And so,
because if you don't decide once in advance, it will be decided for you.
Yeah. And so I think the time, I don't have a time is more of a cultural like acceptable response that we use in lieu of actually looking at our schedule with a critical eye.
Yeah.
Like I can say I'm super busy. No one's going to question that.
Yeah.
But there's part of me that knows like, oh no, I'm just using that as an excuse because I don't want to have that
afraid, or I'm
hard
just
conversation with myself about what I'm making a priority.
Yeah.
So,
and I think if you could write everything down for a week, I mean, a month would be an amazing task.
Yeah.
But again, last week we kept joking like we're not picking on kids sports, and I'm still not.
Yeah.
But it's just such a great example that if you did, this is where a month would come into play a little more. If you did write everything down for a month, maybe you would realize, using kids sports as the example, that like you feel like the ratio of your time is off. Like over half of our time is spent doing X.
Yeah.
Is it really that important to us? More important than travel, or more important than?
And that's why we decided to homeschool, because we were like, we're not going to let the schedule of a 7-year-old dictate the culture of our family.
Yeah.
And so does that mean we make sacrifices to homeschool? Yes.
Absolutely.
But is it worth it because of the family culture and the
because tomorrow I'm hopping on a plane with 2 kids for a week.
1,000%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would just push back and say, I don't have time. I don't have the money. That's another big one. And we're not advocating to travel to Maui, or, obviously Maui is a great place to travel to, but like, we're not saying that these trips or these, vacations have to be some sort of elaborate, expensive thing.
I think that's where I mentioned the Instagram thing. Like, you don't need to go to, what's the place off of Italy? Postano or wherever, like everybody's in a boat and there's all the white cliffed buildings, and you're like, okay, so if I don't go there, does it even count?
One of our best family trips ever was to Stone Harbor. We stayed in like a
tiny little
one
not far from our
bedroom
Pennsylvania house,
off season, and it was super, super magical, and like it was definitely like a core memory for our family. And
100%, it was the highlight of my year that year.
And it was, I think, the first inklings that were like, living near water was going to be something that we pursued.
Yeah.
Like I look back at that trip along with a few other trips, and I'm like, that was the marker. Those are the early stepping stones to end up living here. And you can travel on the cheap. Like it doesn't need to be an airplane. It can be a car ride. It doesn't even need to be out of your town. It can be across the county or, across the state. Like there's a lot of different.
Stay at a friend's house or a family member's house.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you're like, oh, my aunt lives there, I could, like for us right now,
that might be the sweetest thing if you asked if
that might be
you could stay.
Core memory for her, you know, and like, so it's just like, it does, like the money thing, I know that things can be super tight. We've felt that before in our lives.
Yeah.
But even during some of our tightest times, we were still able to like travel with people or travel to a place that's free. Like, like one time we went to Pittsburgh and your cousin had a house there and it was empty. Like the Airbnb it. And then like we asked and they were like, oh yeah, it's free. Like go for it.
Yeah.
And like we ended up being this really cool trip that we took.
Little, but it was,
and so like the money thing, yes, it can be it's just a way to create a creative problem solve. I think like it can be a stopping issue for maybe a big trip or some sort of lavish thing, but it can also just be a way that you creatively find unique places to go that might have a like that that might be the place you need to be, and it might just like open up some really great conversation between you and your spouse or you and your kids that like, oh, that wouldn't have happened at home.
Well, and I think like we're not sponsored by Digit the app. But man, do we love Digit the app. Should we be? Probably. Yeah. Because it's not a budgeting app. It's just a way to save money. It's like out of sight, out of mind kind of a thing. Yeah. It's smart. It learns your
linked
money,
in the show
blah,
notes
blah, blah.
every week.
It's linked every time. But that is like so perfectly ideal for the like, okay, I do feel like money is the hang up. That's going to be our excuse. But I also want traveling to be a priority in 2023. Yeah. So I'm speaking as like just somebody else hypothetically. Like, let's set up a Digit account so that we start saving money, and you set your number. And like, I just think it's solving that problem for you. And I'm sure there's other apps that do it, or there's other ways. But like, that's not the hardest problem to solve. Right. It is solvable. Yeah. And I think it's super worth figuring out.
I have young kids. This is an easy one. Travel with your kids. Like, it is core memories for them through and through. It is a core memory for you. Like, it will become something that you cherish and remember forever. Even if like Sunny doesn't remember our first trip to Disneyland, we remember it. You remember her little,
I've heard people say
bobbing around.
I'm not going to take them there. They're not going to remember it because the kids are so young. And I'm always looking at that person thinking, Okay, but you'll remember
Yeah,
it.
you'll
and
remember
the older
it.
siblings will remember
Yeah.
it. So doesn't that count for something?
And so like, obviously there are some trips that would definitely be harder with kids, but like every time
Yeah, I'm not going to go backpacking in a volcano with a 6-month-old.
Yeah.
That's not my personal vibe.
yeah, but some people it is.
But some people
you
it
know,
is.
and so like travel with your children. And again, it creates a rich family bond that you don't get at home. And so
Yeah.
like, I've heard a couple of guys in Integrated talk about how the like RV road trips have been this like incredible magical moment. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, what's a way we can do this that makes sense? And so I've decided once that every time a kid turns 10, we are going on an RV trip.
Yeah.
So June is 7 right now. When she turns 10,
Yeah.
Sunny will be 7 and Daisy will be 4.
Yeah.
RV road trip. Short, long, I don't know. I'm going to start saving for it in digit. Rent an RV, whatever. Like I got 3 years to save.
Yeah.
And then I'll have 3 more years to save after that.
Yeah.
So June will be 13, Sunny will be 10,
Oh my word.
and Daisy will be 7. And we'll
Yeah.
do it all again. Then 3 years later, June will be 16,
Yeah.
Sunny will be 13, and Daisy will be 10. And so you think about that as a parent and as just a family unit, and there is something incredible there.
Yeah.
That you have now unlocked.
Yeah.
And it's just worth planning for. It's worth saving for. It's worth suffering through this, sometimes the harder parts of travel for, because there is
Yeah.
something magical that happens. Some of my best memories with my family are on trips.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the stories that we still tell to this day.
It's so bonding because you are taken out of the safety of your daily routine of what you know, and you're put into another situation in another place, and sometimes it feels like another time.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's me and you.
Yeah.
Like we're in this together.
Yeah.
We're experiencing this together in real time together. And
And
it's,
if you want to steal the 10-year-old RV trip thing, steal it.
steal it. Steal away.
Steal away. And then the last excuse people get is, I don't know where to go. Brooke wrote down, write down what you'd love to do as a kid, or ask someone who knows you. Like,
Yeah, I think we're afraid. It's, there's a great way that you can ask for help.
yeah.
If you have a friend or friends who know you really well and you're the one that's super indecisive, be like, I don't know, where do you think I
Yeah.
should go? And
Your friends know you. Your parents know you.
Like
You're
they might be like, well, you know what we loved in here
Yeah.
and we have this.
Yeah.
And like, you just don't know if you don't ask. And I also think that, writing down what you loved as a kid is such like a helpful guiding thing. Like, I mean, like core things you loved,
Yeah.
not like I loved X TV show and Yoo-Hoo to drink. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
MC
not going to
Hammer
plan my
pants.
trip around that. But like, I loved water. I loved being in the water. I loved animals. I loved it was always a summertime. Like, I'm not surprised that I've ended up where I've ended up
Yeah.
living
Right.
because I'm like, oh, there she was the whole time. And so I do think that can help guide some of your trips. Or maybe you rotate, like who gets to decide or choose like the main, thing or where you want to go. Because for the longest time, you personally loved traveling more if a hotel was involved.
Yeah. Because
Like that
when I was a
you
kid, that was
love
such a
that.
huge deal.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have a lot of money. So staying in a hotel was always just like this super incredible moment of like, man, this place has got an elevator. Like we lived in a 1-story house. So it's
Yeah.
like, there's more on top of us.
Yeah.
Like there's just this part that was like really cool. And like,
What did TJ love as a kid?
Yeah.
Elevators.
but now we take our kids to a hotel and they lose their minds.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
was talking to Jeremy about it. He's like, oh yeah, it's like it feels like we've typed up a hotel, like we've hyped up Disneyland, and
Yeah.
they're just like, I can't believe I get to experience this.
Yeah.
This is so cool. Look how long these hallways are. I can run as
Yes.
fast
Look
as
at
I
this
can.
window. I can
Yeah.
see buildings outside here.
And so
Yes.
like, yeah.
Yeah. But you were like, I want my vacation to have air conditioning.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, that's definitely more important to you than it is to me. Like, and we've had silly conversations and we've planned different trips with different people as the main person
Yep.
in mind. And that's been really, really cool.
Yeah. So again, as you start to practice some of these habits and
Or talk about where they fit in and if you want them to fit in.
we just want to encourage you to just try them. And so like, we're not telling you to book some expensive vacation, but just
No.
maybe plan a trip. And I think another really powerful thing is like us planning a trip, just the two of us,
Yes.
as well as us planning trips as a family. Like
Yes.
we need time to recuperate and rest and be
We do.
together and have those sort of intimate conversations and moments.
Yeah.
And so like, there's definitely value in both the family traveling and the marriage traveling.
Well, and we literally yesterday, you were like, should I come with you on this trip to Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
And I was like, no offense to you. I said, I'd love for you to come, and no offense to Daisy, but I would really like for this just to be a trip experience with just me and the big girls, because I don't want to be going around a baby's nap schedule.
Yeah, and spending extra coins on.
And like figuring all that out. And like, I don't think that's what this trip is for. And so even this little tiny trip has its own unique like purpose in like our family culture and bonding, which is really cool.
So travel. Oh, I just hit a button.
Oh,
Sounds off. Travel. It's worth it. And I think you'll see the fruits of it if you make it a practice in your life. You'll start to see the fruits over and over again.
Yeah.
So that's all we've got for you guys this week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us a part of your week.
Yes.
We really, really appreciate it, especially those of you in Slovenia. Anything else you got to say?
Nope.
That's all we got to say. So thanks for listening. Thanks for making us part of your week.
Okay, I love you. Bye.